When you hear the name Gabby Petito, what comes to mind?
A young, aspiring blogger who loved life, loved adventures, a girl who was on the cusp of beginning life and whose life was tragically taken from her.
The FBI announcing a medical examiner says the body found in Wyoming was indeed that of Gabby Petito, the coroner calling her death a homicide.
Brian Laundrie, I believe, made his decision to kill himself after he had killed Gabby Petito.
Investigators say human remains found in Florida this week are those of Brian Laundrie, the only person of interest in the death of his fiancée, Gabby Petito.
Gabby Petito's been gone for over a year now. Is this case over?
No, this case is far from over. My name is Mary Fulginiti, and I'm a former federal prosecutor and defense attorney. There are still a lot of questions for Gabby's parents. The primary one being, would Gabby Petito still be alive today if the case had been handled differently?
Hello, and good morning.
We came to know Gabby Petito and Brian Laundrie because they were putting themselves out there in social media, documenting their travels throughout America, this young couple in love, living out of their van, seeing what the world had to offer, living the dream. My name is Dr. Chris Mohandi, and I'm a forensic psychologist. But what we come to learn is that that was a veneer.
All the chocolate melted.
I know, it's a river of chocolate.
Much as I know Gabby and feel like I know Brian, you just never know when it comes to relationships.
We've been lucky so far at all the places we've stayed, but I'd say this is one of the best so far.
Anyone that's met the two of them has been like, they seem like such a nice couple. But a lot of couples look nice on Instagram.
About a month into their trip, Gabby and Brian have a lot of arguments. It gets physical. A witness reports it to the Moab police.
Hey, how are you?
Good.
I'm with Moab Police.
They respond, and now we see that there's trouble in paradise.
He locked me out of the car and told me to go take a breather, but I didn't want to take a breather.
I'm fine, and I love Gabby. I hope she doesn't have too many complaints about me. I'm just, I feel bad after it gets so public.
When you look back, could that Moab police stop been a game changer?
Oh, absolutely. It's hard not to wonder what would have happened to Gabby if either Gabby or Brian had been arrested that day.
Two people went on a trip, one person returned, and that person that returned isn't providing us any information.
Where's Gabby?
We believe the circumstantial evidence demonstrates that the Laundrie family was aware that their son had murdered Gabby and that they were aware of the location of her remains.
They refused to communicate to the Petito family. As human beings, how could somebody not pick up that phone and say, I'm so sorry, we don't know what happened, what can we do to help? And the only reason why you wouldn't is if obviously something went afoul.
Gabby is the most amazing person I've ever met.
I've never felt a pain like this. I have screamed into the air what happened because I want answers. We will get justice for her no matter what.
Gabby Petito's road trip in the summer of 2021 started as an adventure story.
I love the van.
Months later, it turned into a nationwide search for a missing woman.
The search for missing 22-year-old Gabby Petito is now a multi-state effort.
Before ending here.
Earlier today, human remains were discovered.
With the discovery of her remains in Grand Teton National Park. It has now become a cautionary tale.
Ultimately, her death will hopefully lead to many women being rescued and saved from these situations well before it gets to murder.
Former prosecutor and CBS consultant Mary Fulginiti says Gabby's story is really about recognizing the warning signs of domestic violence, which are often hard to read.
There are people who believe that Gabby Petito's story didn't have to end the way it did. If only the warning signs had been picked up on, would it have been different?
To most eyes, Gabby Petito and her fiancé, Brian Laundrie, were compatible in every way.
Gabby Petito never goes outside.
She's the coolest chick you ever met, man. By far, she's gonna make you smile.
Gabby's dad, Joseph.
She's the coolest chick you ever met. Simple as that.
22 years old, a New York girl from Long Island, an appetite for adventure.
She knew she wanted to take this trip.
Her mom, Nicole Schmidt.
She had told me about it probably a year before it started.
Brian's stretching, doing some morning yoga.
Brian's very charismatic. He always comes off as such a sweet person and just kind of like, I'm here.
One of Gabby's close friends, Rose Davis. They met soon after Gabby moved to Florida.
She texted me one of the sweetest messages I think I've ever got from someone, and it was just like, you seem so cool, I really want to be your friend. And I was just, absolutely.
They made TikTok videos together for fun. Rose says Gabby was good friends with Brian back in high school in New York. Then, after Brian moved to Florida, Gabby moved there too, to be closer to him.
I always told her life is kind of like a movie, because I was just like, this happens in movies.
Soon, they were in love and living together.
She'd let me know what they did, and you know, he'd make her breakfast, and it was always such a cute little thing, and they did cute little dinners.
In July of 2020, they got engaged. They even got tattoos together. But Rose says Brian could sometimes exhibit what she calls toxic traits. We spoke to Rose when Gabby was first reported missing.
When Brian wants something, he's gonna get it. And I don't mean in a physical way, he's gonna force it. He's just gonna... I don't want people to say I'm calling him a full manipulator, but he'll manipulate the situation to get what he wants out of it. And, you know, he didn't want her to go out one night with me, and he stole her ID because you can't get into the bar without your ID. And, you know, this was really upsetting to her. You know, you're engaged. It's not, you know, it's not supposed to be like that.
But the couple seemed to put any drama behind them as they got ready for their adventure. Gabby worked hard at Taco Bell and with Brian at Publix Supermarket, saving money for their trip.
They bought the van, they converted it.
The goal was to spend 4 or 5 months crisscrossing the country, having adventures, even working on organic farms, and chronicling it all in real time on social media.
She was just like, I want to document this. This is so cool to be doing. And she just kind of, yeah, kind of like a vlogger, just let everyone know what she was up to.
She was excited, starting her van life digital journey where she's creating this whole, you know, following of van lifers. And that's what she was really into at the moment.
They rolled out officially on July 2nd. Gabby posted constantly.
Hello, hello, and good morning.
Every little detail.
You can't keep chocolate in Utah. Not in July.
But all those selfies may have been hiding a darker story.
It's everything behind the scenes. You don't know.
6 weeks into their trip, on the afternoon of August 12th, in Utah near the Arches National Park, Gabby and Brian's Instagram road trip came to a shuddering stop.
Driver is showing some obscure driving, possibly intoxicated.
It was around 4:45 in the afternoon, according to this police officer's body cam.
Currently doing 45 miles an hour. Zone through here is 25. Oh! Subject just hit the curb. Correction, speed limit is 15. What's your guys' names?
Gabby.
I'm Brian. Gabby, Brian, okay.
It was the stop that could have changed everything.
County Sheriff's Office.
This 911 call was made on August 12, 2021, in Moab, Utah, 4 weeks before Gabby Petito was reported missing.
We're driving by and I'd like to report a domestic dispute.
The caller reports seeing what appeared to be an alarming confrontation between Gabby and Brian.
Florida license plate, white land.
What were they doing?
We drove by and the gentleman was slapping the girl.
He was slapping her?
Yes, and then we stopped. They ran up and down the sidewalk. He proceeded to hit her, hopped in the car, and they drove off.
Officers from the Moab Police Department are dispatched, and within minutes, Gabby and Brian's white van is spotted driving erratically outside the Arches National Park. They're pulled over. The officers separate the couple and begin questioning them.
I'm just going over here.
Gabby is visibly shaken.
You want to tell me what's going on?
Yeah, I don't know. It's just some days I have really bad OCD, and I was just cleaning and straightening up the back of the van before, and I was apologizing to him and saying, I'm sorry that I'm so mean, and I'm trying to start a blog. I just have a blog and stuff, so I've been building my website, so I've just been really stressed, and he doesn't really believe that I could do any of it, so that's kind of been like a, I don't know, he's like, I don't know, we've just been fighting all morning, and he wouldn't let me in the car before. And then
why wouldn't he let you in the car? Because of your OCD?
Told me I needed to calm down.
So, tell me what's going on. You see, this gets worked up sometimes, and I try and really distance myself from her, so like I locked the car and I walked away from her.
Brian tells police that Gabby attacked him, scratching his face and his arm as she tried to get back into the van.
Had her phone and was trying to get the police like that. And I was just trying to, I know I shouldn't push, but I was just trying to push her way to go, let's just take a minute, step back and breathe. And we see she got me with her phone.
People that came to us and told us that they saw him hit you.
Another officer asked Gabby for more details about what happened.
Well, to be honest, I definitely hit him first.
Where'd you hit him?
I slapped him in the face.
You slapped him first, and then just on his face?
Can you get him to shut up?
How many times did you slap him?
Romeo, India, Alpha.
Just a couple.
And then what? And then his reaction was to do what?
Grab my arm so I wouldn't slap him.
He just grabbed you?
Yeah.
Did he hit you though? I mean, it's okay if you're saying you hit him, and then I understand if he hit you, but we want to know the truth if he actually hit you.
I guess, yeah, but I hit him first.
Where did he hit you? Don't worry, just be honest.
He grabbed my face, I guess. He didn't hit me in the face, he didn't punch me in the face or anything.
Did he slap your face or what?
Well, he grabbed me with his nail, and I guess that's why it looks. I definitely have a cut right here, I could feel it.
Yeah.
When I touch it, it burns.
The officers never directly asked Brian if he slapped or hit Gabby. They also didn't talk to the 911 caller who reported seeing Brian hit Gabby. But one of the officers did speak with a second eyewitness that day.
The witness says, I never saw him hit her. I saw him shove her, but I couldn't tell if it was an aggression against her or a defense against her. So at this point,
from what, unless the guy's screaming that he needs to go to jail and did something to this girl, it sounds to me like she is the primary aggressor. Yeah.
In Utah, if officers find evidence of a domestic violence assault, they are required to make an arrest or issue a citation. An independent investigation would later conclude that the officers did not have a clear understanding of the law.
Gabby, this is a very, very important question. How you answer this question is going to determine what happens next. But the only person who can answer this question is you.
They mistakenly believed that Gabby had to intend to harm Brian to require an arrest.
When you slapped him those times, were you attempting to cause him physical pain or physical impairment? Was that what you were attempting to do to him?
No.
What were you attempting to do? What was the reason behind the slapping and stuff? What was it you were attempting to accomplish by slapping?
I was trying to get him to stop telling me how bad.
Well, it doesn't sound to me like she attempted to injure him.
Ultimately, officers on the scene decided to separate the couple for the night.
I'm going to give you the keys to the van.
Gabby was told to stay with the van.
I'm giving him a ride over to the hotel. Okay.
As the assumed victim, Brian was sent to a hotel.
I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for everything.
No problem. It's nice meeting you, Brian.
Nice to meet you.
No one was arrested or issued a citation. Forensic psychologist Chris Mohandi has worked closely with law enforcement on issues of domestic violence.
The officers that responded to Gabby and Brian were compassionate. Their hearts were in the right place of wanting to help. They were trying to do what they mistakenly believed was the right thing by cutting them a break.
Weeks later, when the body cam footage was released, there was a public uproar.
Newly released video shows what looks like the aftermath of an argument between Gabby Petito and Brian Laundrie.
For her friend Rose, those images were almost impossible to watch.
It takes a lot for her to get that hysterical.
But I'm perfectly calm. I'm calm all the time, and he really stresses me out.
And so when I saw the body cam, I knew it was more than just a little argument. She's not gonna slap him for no reason.
The release of the 911 call drew outrage.
Who's slapping her?
Followers of the story on social media erupted in anger. My blood is boiling at how they failed this poor girl. All I know is this didn't have to end like this. Police missed an opportunity. Mohandi says the officers seemed to miss signs of domestic abuse.
It's just crazy.
And Gabby accepting the blame.
And I was apologizing to him and saying, I'm sorry that I'm so mean because...
In a domestically violent relationship, it's not uncommon for one party to take the blame for what really is the behavior of the other party.
The independent investigator later wrote that it's very likely that Gabby was a long-term victim of domestic violence. The ramifications of the officers' actions during that stop would play out in the days ahead, and months later would be questioned by Gabby's parents and their lawyers. Just days after that traffic stop, Gabby and Brian were back on the road, headed north to Salt Lake City.
It rained all afternoon yesterday.
On August 19th, Gabby posted an edited 8-minute video showing their journey together.
It is really nice and sunny today.
The video showed no signs of any tension between Gabby and Brian. Later, Gabby told her mom they were leaving Utah and driving to Grand Teton National Park in Wyoming.
She was happy. She was excited to keep going on her journey. And that was the last time I spoke to her verbally.
On August 25th, Gabby posted a series of photos on Instagram in front of a butterfly mural in Ogden, Utah. It would be her final post on Instagram.
Gabby Petito never goes outside.
The Instagram post on August 25th, 2021 was the last time Gabby Petito would publish on social media. And shortly after she said she and Brian were headed to Grand Teton National Park, Gabby's parents stopped hearing from her.
She seemed to have been in communication with her parents on a regular basis throughout the totality of this trip, and they were checking in on her regularly.
Then, on August 27th, 2021, her mother says she received a strange text message from Gabby's phone. It read, "Can you help Stan? I just keep getting his voicemails and missed calls." Stan is Gabby's grandfather.
The mother thought it was odd because she never refers to her grandfather as Stan.
It was out of character and disconcerting, but as far as the Petito family knew, Gabby and Brian were still together on their trip.
Hi, my name is Miranda Baker, and on August 29th, my boyfriend and I picked up Brian at Grand Teton National Park at 5:30 at night at Coulter Bay.
48 hours after Gabby's mother received that cryptic text, Miranda Baker says she and her boyfriend picked up a man she believes was Brian Laundrie. She says he was alone.
He approached us asking us for a ride because he needed to go to Jackson. Before he came in the car, he offered to pay us like $200 to give him a ride, like 10 miles. So that was kind of weird. He then told us he's been camping for multiple days without his fiance and that she was working on their social media page back at their van.
Suddenly, says Miranda, things took a turn when there was confusion over where they were going.
He freaked out. He's like, nope, I need to get out right now, like pull over. We dropped him off at 6:09 p.m. on August 29th.
Meanwhile, Gabby's mother, Nicole, did receive one more text from Gabby's phone. It said that there was no service in Yosemite.
The last text I received from her phone was August 30th.
Are you confident that was from her, or you're not sure?
I can't comment on that.
During Gabby's travels, she had been staying in touch with her friend Rose Davis. Rose was expecting to hear from Gabby on her birthday.
So we talked, and my birthday is August 29th. So we decided, call me then.
But no birthday call or text came.
I honestly didn't think anything of it when she didn't text me or anything, because she's traveling cross country, and you know, once it got later into it, around like 8th and 9th of September, that was the point where I was like, she would have called me. Why haven't I heard from her yet?
What Rose did not know was that on September 1st, Brian Laundrie was back in Northport, Florida. He had driven the van there, and he was alone. The Petito family knew none of this, but they had already become alarmed when they stopped hearing from Gabby altogether, and her cell phone had stopped working.
Did you ever reach out to her boyfriend to figure out what happened and where your daughter is?
We can't comment on that.
We're not commenting on that.
But Gabby's mother did reach out to police.
It was actually Friday the 10th that I decided to call police, because I had had 10 days, almost 11 days was enough for me to not hear from my child. And I got the runaround. Nobody wanted to report her missing. She's an adult, she's traveling. But as a mother, I said, it's not like her. Finally, that Saturday, I went personally to Suffolk County 5th Precinct, and now this is where we are.
Gabby Petito was officially declared a missing person on September 11th, just over 2 weeks after her last Instagram post. As the nation remembered so many lives lost 20 years earlier, the Petito family focused on one life, that of their missing daughter.
We're looking for her, and only her, not the van, not the two of them, just her. Keep your eyes out, and we'll find her.
A woman disappears on a cross-country trip with her boyfriend in a van.
On Monday, September 13th, 2021, the story of Gabby Petito's disappearance hit the news.
The parents of a missing woman from Long Island need help finding her.
Gabby's mom and stepdad, Nicole and Jim Schmidt, held up her photo for reporters.
Gabby's 22 years old. She's an absolutely beautiful, beautiful soul inside and out.
Rose Davis was devastated to see her friend's picture on TV.
My mom called me into her room, and Gabby's face was all over the news, and I kind of just went into shock.
What happened to Gabby Petito? Once it became clear that Gabby Petito had gone missing, her mom and stepdad, her father Joe Petito, and stepmom Tara set up a Find Gabby page where people could post tips and information. She was reportedly last seen near Grand Teton National Park in Wyoming around August 27th, 2021.
We're hoping
We want her home.
We want her home safe and sound.
I immediately made like a collage of all of our photos for a TikTok and posted the information, Facebook, Instagram, everything.
Within days, videos about Gabby's disappearance exploded across social media. Even people with no connection to Gabby joined the search to help find her.
We are going to be going to the Grand Tetons to see if there's anything that we can do to help in the search of Gabby Petito.
You know, the social media has been amazing. Getting everybody to post it, repost it. We need for her to come back home, and anything you guys can do to help us get there is just appreciated, and we just got to keep doing it.
For Gabby's parents, this spotlight in the media and online was invaluable. But as former federal prosecutor Mary Fulginiti points out, not all missing persons cases receive this level of attention. What was it about Gabby Petito's story that resonated with so many people across the world?
You know, there seems to be a tendency in these types of cases to give a disproportionate amount of attention to a certain type of individual, and I think Gabby Petito was a young, beautiful, blonde, blue-eyed girl.
Forensic psychologist Dr. Chris Mohandi.
This case, is a bit of a commentary on who gets news attention, traction in social media. There are people in these situations every single day that don't fit that description. Native American communities, gay communities. Are they being treated differently? Are they being ignored?
Whether it's newsworthy or not shouldn't be dictated by somebody's color of skin, because these stories, if they rise to a level of notoriety, they really can help solve the mystery behind some of them.
But there was one person who wasn't helping solve the mystery of what happened to Gabby, Brian Laundrie. Northport, Florida police spokesman Josh Taylor said investigators were frustrated. Neither he nor his parents would answer their questions, even though Gabby had lived with them.
We were essentially handed the information for their attorney. That is the extent of our conversation with them.
First word that popped in my brain was coward, to be honest with you. You're supposed to love her. You're supposed to marry her. Where is she?
Police confiscated the white Ford van, searched it for evidence, and then released it, posting that Brian was now a person of interest in Gabby's disappearance. Laundrie family attorney Stephen Bertolino spoke briefly to the press.
On behalf of the Laundrie family, I will hope that Ms. Petito is located and that she's reunited with her family.
Gabby's parents responded through attorney Rick Stafford with a scathing letter.
We believe you know the location of where Brian left Gabby. We beg you to tell us. As a parent, how could you let us go through this pain and not help us?
6 days after Gabby was declared missing, the Laundrie family reported that they didn't know where Brian was. They said he'd left for a hike at the Carlton Reserve days earlier. Police immediately began to comb the huge local park, looking for Brian.
A massive search
more than 50 officers and FBI agents combing a 24,000-acre park near Sarasota, Florida, looking for Brian Laundrie.
Anger at the Laundrie family's silence prompted protesters to gather outside the Laundrie home, demanding answers. While authorities were searching for Brian in Florida, the search for Gabby in and around Wyoming intensified.
It was like a nationwide hunt, too, between social media and all the other avenues. And people were looking for the van. People were looking for where it went, when it went. They were looking for Gabby Petito.
And in this case, all of that social media attention ultimately helped investigators locate Gabby. When Kyle and Jen Bethune came forward with information, they had spotted Gabby and Brian's van. The Bethunes had been in Wyoming's Grand Teton National Park around the time Gabby's family last heard from her. On August 27, 2021, the Bethunes had their GoPros rolling for their YouTube channel when they went looking for a campground.
We're driving down this road past this van, and it had Florida plates. However, the van was completely dark. We assumed that they were just out hiking or doing something else.
Once the Bethunes left the park, they didn't think about the van again until late on Saturday, September 18th, when Jen checked her phone and was stunned to learn authorities now believed Gabby had been in the Tetons the very same night the Bethunes were there. Jen instantly remembered the white van.
And I immediately got goosebumps all over my body. I rushed back to the computer and I saw that white speck of van and I was like, please keep going, please keep going. And it did, and it got bigger and bigger.
We just some reason instantly knew that it was hers.
When I called the FBI, I was like, I have found Gabby's footage, like patch me across to somebody, like this is huge, because I knew deep down what it was. And I knew how important this footage would be to finding Gabby.
As instructed, the Bethunes uploaded their footage to the FBI website. They also posted it on YouTube and Facebook. Just hours later came the devastating announcement.
Earlier today, human remains were discovered, consistent with the description of Gabby Petito.
The FBI says Gabby's remains were found at the Spread Creek camping area inside Bridger Teton National Forest in Wyoming. An autopsy confirmed the remains were Gabby's, and the coroner determined her death was a homicide by manual strangulation.
We have no additional comments.
Gabby's family asked for privacy, but her father, Joe, sent out a tweet that summed up the moment. It read simply, "She touched the world." Hours after it was announced Gabby had been found, over a dozen FBI agents and police officers swarmed the home of Brian's parents.
Police arrived, the FBI arrived, they were carrying a battering ram. They also announced that they had a warrant. I think seeing these FBI agents and police here, you wonder, do they now know where he is?
The next day, Northport Police, the FBI, and other agencies ramped up the search of the nature preserve near Brian's home.
Terrain's very difficult. Essentially, 75% of it's underwater.
49 days after Brian had returned home without Gabby, on October 20th, 2021, the FBI made an announcement.
Earlier today, investigators found what appears to be human remains.
An autopsy revealed Brian Laundrie had died from a self-inflicted gunshot to the head. And there was something else.
Along with personal items, such as a backpack and notebook belonging to Brian Laundrie.
That notebook contained writings from Brian explaining what he says really happened to Gabby Petito. Writing, "I ended her life. I thought it was merciful." Before Brian Laundrie put a bullet through his head, he wrote a story describing how Gabby Petito died.
It was dark. They were running across a stream. She must have fell and hurt herself. And he went to help her, but she seemed to be in extreme pain.
In that small notebook found in a dry bag near Brian's remains, he wrote, "I ended her life. I thought it was merciful, that it is what she wanted. But I see now all the mistakes I made."
It was a self-serving narrative that portrayed that there had been an accident and that there had been a mercy killing by him of her because she was suffering.
Brian's stretching.
It speaks to selfishness and a degree of narcissism, that it was important for how other people looked at him, his image. You know, he had the last word.
While Gabby's parents will never see Brian Laundrie face a jury, they are seeking their own version of justice. They are suing Brian's estate for wrongful death and his parents for intentional infliction of emotional distress.
Where's Gabby?
Attorney Patrick Riley.
It's our belief that the Laundrie family was aware that Brian had murdered Gabby and was aware where her body was located.
Riley says that belief is based on information from the FBI. He says the FBI believes that Gabby was murdered on August 27, 2021, and that Brian made a lengthy phone call to his parents on the 28th. He says according to the FBI, Brian's parents then contacted an attorney that same day. How damning is that? Why would they get an attorney so fast?
It's very damning. It doesn't pass the smell test.
The Laundrie's attorney issued a statement denying the allegations made in the lawsuits and saying this lawsuit does not change the fact that the Laundries had no obligation to speak to law enforcement or any third party, including the Petito family. But there's more, says Riley. A letter allegedly written to Brian by his mother, Roberta Laundrie. Riley says he and Gabby's mom read it while reviewing evidence at the FBI's Tampa office.
There was one part that sticks out, which is, if you go to prison, I'll bake a cake with a shiv in it. And by the way, the envelope that the letter came in had written on the front of it, "Burn after reading."
If it can be proven when and if Brian's mother did indeed write that letter, it could be very damaging, says Mary Fulginiti.
Because it shows the mindset of the mother, that she'll do anything to protect her child.
In addition to the pending cases in Florida, Gabby's parents are in the process of filing a lawsuit against the Moab Police Department.
How's it going? How are we doing?
Relating to how they handled that domestic violence stop with Gabby and Brian. Attorney Brian Stewart.
The family believes that Gabby would still be alive today if the police officers had had the proper training and had followed the law in how they responded to Gabby's situation.
Hey, how are you?
According to Stewart, the body cam footage shows there was a fundamental problem.
Hey, the very best thing I can do is call my supervisor and see if I'm missing something here.
It's clear that the officers did not have a clear understanding of the law that they were supposed to enforce that day.
Gabby, try to calm down and I'm going to go call a supervisor.
The Moab Police Department commissioned the captain of another Utah police department to conduct that independent review of the officers' actions that day. Among the report's conclusions, there was probable cause for an arrest.
By choosing not to apply the statute and effect an arrest, the officers left Gabby and Brian in a dangerous situation.
The report cited other unintentional mistakes, says Mary Fulginiti.
They didn't follow up with a key witness, which is the 911 caller. They did not follow up with questions to Brian Laundrie about whether or not he grabbed her face or grabbed her arm. They didn't document Gabby's wounds photographically or in the report.
Mary Fulginiti believes they also missed some classic telltale signs of domestic violence.
And here was a girl who was hysterically crying, who was immediately taking the blame, who was also trying to minimize her boyfriend's actions. All of this while he remained calm, cool, and collected. there was an interview. So I think if you look at that in the totality, and had all those things been addressed, we might have had a different outcome here.
No, this could have been a game changer. We don't know for sure. We'll never know. But certainly, intervention would have been more possible under that scenario.
One of the officers involved told the independent investigator after Gabby's death, quote, "I would have done anything to stop it if I would have known that was coming."
What happened? What's going on?
In a statement, the city of Moab said it believed the officers showed kindness,
You want to come stand in the shade?
respect, and empathy in their handling of this incident.
Get you in the van, let's get you on your way, all righty?
The city intends to implement the recommendations of the independent review, which include more domestic violence investigation-related training and legal training to ensure officers understand Utah state laws. The attorneys for Gabby's parents insist their lawsuits are not about money. They're about raising awareness. Gabby's mother, Nicole, recently told the Associated Press, "I get people messaging me all the time that they were inspired by her to get out of a relationship."
Yeah, and I think that in and of itself is a huge, huge victory for a family that has sadly encountered such tragedy. But there can be these bright lights that come out of these bad circumstances. And if there is one to be shined here, it will be hopefully that there will be young girls out there that say, you know what, I'm gonna walk away. I'm not gonna stay, or I'm gonna get myself the help I need to get the strength to walk away.
Gabby Petito, doing in death what she did in life.
I've always described her as this light, you know. She'll do everything to bring the light out in you, and if she can't, she'll give you some of hers.
Hours. Don't miss an episode.
That crime scene was just brutal and evil and just ugly.
Linda Slaten, remembered as a loving mother, was found dead in this home in 1981. It was a case that went cold for nearly 4 decades.
When two brothers who weren't sure whether their mother's murder would ever be solved got a chance to tell.
I freaked out, started crying. I saw the whole crime scene right then and there as a 12-year-old kid.
I'd have died that night trying to save my mom, but I didn't hear nothing. And it's so hard to live with that.
That one case just bothered me, the way I saw that lady. He entered that window and he went out of that window. And that's where I got his print from.
Son of a bitch was walking the street.
He's out free.
We truly felt that the person that left his DNA behind was the person that actually killed her.
The boyfriend of Linda.
Certainly high on the list.
Her ex-husband was another one.
All you need is a DNA match.
A hit, that's all I needed, a hit in the database. And the further we went, the longer we went, the more discouraging you got, the hope started fading.
You can't lose your mom no worse than we lost our mom. It's a nightmare I wouldn't wish on nobody. I love you, bro.
Now, we can't undo the tragedy. We can never make up for what happened. The best outcome is that they get justice.
I may die, I never know who did this, you know?
Loved ones, and especially children of a murder victim, They need those answers.
No matter how many detectives we had to go through over the years, we was going to let them know we're still here, and we want to know who killed our mom.
38 years after this brutal murder.
I just felt like it never would be solved.
38 years of more than 24 detectives coming up empty.
Every turn I was striking out.
How long did it take you
Chromosome 3, chromosome 4.
to solve this crime?
2 days.
On the morning of September 4th, 1981, you're going to walk 3 doors down and have a cup of coffee with your sister.
Right.
When Judy Butler knocked on her older sister's front door, Linda Slaten never answered. At the time, the sisters both lived in this Lakeland apartment complex.
So you started to walk back to your place, and what happened?
And I turn and I see that the screen is out of the window.
Linda's bedroom window was wide open. Judy walked over and looked inside.
And my vision comes across her.
Where was she?
She was laying, instead of up and down on the bed, she was laying crossways. And at first I thought maybe she was asleep. And then I just started screaming.
When police arrived, they found the partially nude body of Linda Slaten, 31, with a wire coat hanger wrapped around her neck. The killer had entered her bedroom through the open window. The crackle of police radios inside the small 2-bedroom apartment woke up Linda's 15-year-old son, Jeff, sleeping on a cot in the living room.
I asked him, what is going on? He said, police officers put on some clothes and go outside. And he made sure I went out the front door. And when I went out there, it looked like every cop in the state of Florida, news crews, and my Aunt Judy was out there crying. And she told me my mom had been murdered. And I just couldn't believe it.
In the apartment's 2nd bedroom, another officer woke up Linda's younger son, Tim, then 12 years old.
He goes, you need to wake up and go outside with your brother. He never mentioned my mom. I'm like, why are you not saying my mom? Why's a cop waking me up?
Still in his pajamas, Tim walked past his mother's closed bedroom door. Suddenly, it swung open as an officer left the room.
And I saw the whole crime scene. I mean, I saw my mom's bloody body with a coat hanger around her neck.
You can't unsee that.
No. And I still see it.
In 1974, Linda Slaten was a 24-year-old single mom, finally free. She had just divorced Jeff and Tim's abusive father, Frank Slaten, after 9 volatile years of marriage.
He was a violent alcoholic, to be honest with you.
Yes. Did he hit your mom?
No, yeah.
In the years that followed, nothing was easy for the young family. Linda struggled for work, made her own clothes to save money, and couldn't afford a car.
If you couldn't get a ride to practice, who would take you?
Coach, come pick us up.
That's Coach Joe, as the kids called him. He often drove Tim and some other boys to and from football practice. On the last full day of her life, Linda and Jeff argued. Tensions had been rising with her teenage son.
I remember coming home, there wasn't nothing to eat in the house. But you know how it is when you're a 15, 16-year-old kid, you're mouthy, and I got mad and I went out the door and got on my bicycle and rode 11 or 12 miles to the north side of town to go to Grandma and Grandpa's house to get something to eat.
At 8:30 that night, Tim came home from football practice.
The coach brought me home.
Around 9, Linda took Tim to a party next door to play cards.
Grandma and Grandpa brought me home about, I think it was around 9 or 9:30 or so.
Linda and Tim came home about 11. By midnight, Jeff made up with his mom, he says, and still remembers their final moment together.
She's washing the dishes and stuff when she went to go to her bedroom. I said, I love you, Mom. I'll see you tomorrow, you know.
What do you remember about the Slaten case?
I can remember everything about it. Going to that window, looking at it where he went through it. Then I went in there and the children was asleep. And I saw that coat hanger around her neck.
Former Sergeant Edgar Pickett, now 94 years old, was a legendary fingerprint expert with the Lakeland Police Department. He led the crime scene unit. In fact, the crime lab bears his name. But that sort of recognition was a long time coming. Arriving at the Slaten crime scene in 1981, Pickett, then 53, was just a year away from retirement. But his hard-earned reputation had never spared him from prejudice.
So you pull up at the scene, and another detective says what to you?
That a black man don't have any business looking at a naked white woman.
Even though she was a homicide victim.
That's correct.
Sergeant Pickett believed Linda Slaten had been strangled with a coat hanger from her own closet. He dusted most of the bedroom for fingerprints, even the floor.
And then I got that print off of that window sill. It was a palm print, wasn't a fingerprint.
You got the most important print there is.
I knew it.
The evidence Pickett uncovered would play a crucial role decades later, especially the palm print.
I really had never seen anybody in the shape that that lady was in. And I've seen a lot of people killed.
An autopsy later confirmed what he already knew. Linda Slaten had been sexually assaulted and strangled to death. Swabs taken and preserved in a rape kit revealed semen. That morning, Pickett says, his thoughts kept returning to Linda Slaten's boys.
I had children too. And I really wanted to clear that case. I did.
You guys are standing on the spot where your life changed.
Yes, right. When I stopped being a kid, was right there.
You were 15.
15.
You really felt like this was the end of your childhood right here?
Yes, sir. I think exactly what it is when my Aunt Judy told my mom been murdered.
Emerging through the terror and tears that September morning 41 years ago, the questions kept coming. Why? Who? Who could have done such an evil thing? On that late summer morning in 1981, Jeff and Tim Slaten faced a frightening world they no longer recognized, a world without their mother.
How do 12 and 15-year-old boys process that, deal with that?
It was hard. Yeah, I thought about committing suicide a couple times. It was that bad.
The brothers moved in with their grandparents, Clarence and Margaret Harris.
We stayed in the house. We didn't go anywhere.
Scared to death.
Scared to death, you know, to do anything.
For those first terrifying days, the family slept in the same room. except Grandpa Harris.
And he would stay in guard with a gun all night while we slept.
The grandparents hoped a quick return to familiar routines would help their distraught grandsons. A few weeks after their mom's funeral, the boys were back in school.
And just, being with friends and just started living life again, I guess. Going back to football.
His teammates, and Coach Joe in particular, were always supportive, always rooting for him, says Tim.
And I looked up to this guy. He was my assistant football coach. I rides to games, rides to practice.
Tim's team football photo hung in his bedroom. It was taken just 1 month after the murder. The picture was a reminder, he says, of something his mom had taught him, to keep moving forward and never give up.
She was a fighter.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes.
She might have weighed 100 pounds soaking wet, but she was pretty tough.
Everybody liked her that met her. Everybody was asking her for a date because she was so young and pretty.
And then Linda met and married Frank Slaten.
He was a mean, no-count scoundrel.
The brothers say it's hard to know when their dad began to beat their mom. The more he drank, the more violent he became.
Yeah, I remember one time he was in the bathroom. He had her by the throat with a gun to her head, and I was coming there trying to get him off of her. I felt like it saved her that night, that day.
But you were just a little guy yourself.
Yeah, I was only 6.5, 7 years old.
Frank Slaten's history of abuse made him a person of interest for Lakeland detectives. But investigators seem satisfied that Slaten was home in Alabama on the night of the murder. At the time of her death, Linda had a boyfriend. He, too, had a credible alibi. Others were looked at, like the partygoers next door, but no one was charged.
The Lakeland Police Department, they used to come down and take me out of school, and they was always interrogating me all the time.
In the early days, it sounds like, who the police really were most thorough in checking out
was me.
As a 15-year-old, Jeff had plenty of typical teen conflicts with his mom, which he readily admitted to detectives, including that heated argument on the last day of her life.
They had me put me on a lie detector test one time, and I passed it. Then they wanted to do it again. They just wanted to put me under hypnosis. And then there's one time, one of the cops, he's like, "You got big arms on you, and you're strong enough to put your hands around your mom's neck and kill her?" Who would do that to a kid? I was a 15-year-old kid hurting. You can say that to me. I mean, that's always hurt.
Finally, Jeff's grandparents said, enough.
It's like, get out there and find who killed my daughter. Leave this kid, leave his family alone.
2 weeks later, according to the Lakeland police report, Jeff took a second polygraph test and was cleared. At that point, the investigation slowed, then ground to a halt. As the years passed, Jeff and Tim started their own families. But to this day, there is still grief and guilt for not hearing anything that night, for not coming to their mom's rescue.
I'd have died that night trying to save my mom. But I mean, we're right there in the house. How can you not hear something like that?
And they lived in fear of the man they called the monster. Unless he was dead, he was out there, somewhere. Around the 20th anniversary of their mom's murder, Jeff and Tim met with Lakeland detective Brad Grice, who was taking a fresh look at the case.
As soon as Jeff and Tim walked in the door, I realized I'd known Jeff for years, since I was in my 20s. Through bowling.
I was like, Brad. Sure enough, I knew him from bowling years ago.
Grice took DNA samples from the brothers to clear them again, then gave Jeff something in return, a promise.
He made me promise that I wouldn't retire until I solved his mother's case. And I wanted to so bad for him and his brother. I did.
Grice had already sent DNA from the Slaten rape kit to the state's major crime lab at the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, the FDLE.
Do you have any confidence that you could solve it?
I was hoping DNA would. You know, it was becoming a big tool.
By March 1999, the FDLE had developed a full DNA profile of Linda Slaten's anonymous killer.
All you need is a DNA match.
A hit. That's all I needed, a hit in the database.
Detective Grice took dozens of DNA samples from prior persons of interest, submitting them to the FDLE for comparison.
We were trying everything.
Even the brother's father, Frank Slaten, who had stopped drinking, volunteered a sample. None matched. Then in September 2001, Grice got a tip. Nearly a year after the Slaten killing, a 24-year-old man named Jimmy Ulmer pulled a 10-year-old girl through her bedroom window and nearly killed her.
He was convicted of that and sentenced to like 80 years in prison.
The savage assault seemed eerily similar to the Slaten case, and Detective Grice discovered that, around the time of Linda Slaten's murder, Jimmy Ulmer had been staying with a friend who happened to live in the very same apartment complex as Slaten.
Hang on. Jimmy Ulmer was staying in an apartment right across the way from the Slatens?
Yes.
You must have felt like that's our guy.
I felt very strong. I did.
Ulmer had died in prison 5 years earlier, in 1996, but Grice got a DNA sample from his mother.
I honestly felt that when we got the results back that we would know who did it and we get the notice that it wasn't him.
At that point, you must have been like, we're never going to solve this thing.
I sure felt that way. It was very discouraging.
You know, it's like, oh my God, we're back to square one again.
You feel like he's on a roller coaster for pretty much your whole life.
By 2005, Detective Grice was heading up a new cold case unit, and the FBI was running the DNA profile of Slaten's killer continuously through all federal data banks. But the years continued to pass without a match.
Jeff would call, and Jeff, I got nothing for you, you know. It hurt my heart too, you know.
Grice had a growing suspicion he was chasing a ghost.
I honestly thought the suspect might be deceased.
He had made that promise to the brothers that he wouldn't retire until their monster was caught.
I had some medical things that were popping up.
It was a promise he couldn't keep. Detective Grice retired in 2015.
There was probably nothing in your professional life you wanted more than to call Jeff Slaten and say, got him.
Absolutely.
After Detective Bragrass retired, I said, well, I'm probably gonna take my last breath and not know who murdered my mom. I was already starting to come to terms with it.
But 3 years later, there was renewed hope. A groundbreaking DNA technology began to electrify the law enforcement community, and genetic genealogist C.C. Moore was taking on the Slaten case.
I was determined I was going to help these boys find out who killed their mom.
C.C. Moore is a renowned expert in the field of investigative genetic genealogy.
If you have that DNA, there is no reason you cannot solve that mystery, whatever that mystery is.
Moore launched her hunt for Linda Slaten's killer by uploading the anonymous DNA from Slaten's rape kit to a public genealogy website called GEDmatch. She then meticulously constructed, branch by branch, his genetic family tree.
I built the family trees of those people who share DNA with him, and then I identify common ancestors between those people.
She made those connections by poring over birth certificates, marriage licenses, obituaries, and social media to fill in the family tree with names.
It sounds like basically you're putting together a giant jigsaw puzzle.
Yes. My work is constantly putting together puzzles, piece by piece by piece. These matches all share DNA with each other, so they're my first genetic network.
C.C. Moore uncovered 3 genetic networks branches of the killer's family tree that ultimately narrowed to the one person most likely responsible for the murder of Linda Slaten.
Fortunately, those 3 genetic networks converged into one family tree that pointed at one immediate family, and he was the only son in that family. And we knew the killer was a male, so it had to be him that was the DNA contributor.
After hundreds of leads and dead ends, after dozens of suspects were investigated and cleared, C.C. Moore identified the probable killer in one weekend.
There was just one person who was high confidence.
And who was that?
Joseph Clinton Mills.
Joseph Clinton Mills, Coach Joe, who drove Linda Slaten's 12-year-old son Tim to and from practice. But authorities wanted to be certain before they notified the brothers.
And then there is a sort of exhilaration because he's alive. And so there's a real chance for justice and maybe even answers.
C.C. Moore's final 2019 report confirmed that Joseph Mills, then 58, was living in Kathleen, Florida, about half an hour from the crime scene.
And I reviewed the case, and I'm like, I remember that name. I remember seeing that name. That guy was interviewed.
Detectives Tammy Hathcock and Russell Hurley were the next generation of Lakeland investigators leading the Slaten cold case.
I'm telling you, it's like I won the lottery. I remember grabbing that piece of paper from the report and just running down the hallway to my sergeant saying, oh my God, he was interviewed, he was interviewed.
According to the case file, investigators did question Joseph Mills, then 20 years old, just one day after the murder.
He was very basically touched. I mean, like just a very brief interview.
And it was conducted on the phone, not in person. The fact that investigators never questioned Mills face-to-face suggests he was never considered a suspect. During the brief call, Mills acknowledged he had driven Tim Slaten home from football practice on September 3rd. Just hours later, Linda Slaten was dead.
How was Joseph Mills not followed up on more aggressively in 1981?
At that point, I mean, he was just a football coach that had dropped off Timmy. He was never on their radar to be a suspect, just based off of the information that they were given by Timmy and by Mr. Mills.
Joseph Mills, seen here in a 1984 driver's license photo, was convicted that year of grand theft for forging a will. He never went to jail, but he was fingerprinted. Lakeland police also took a palm print. In August 2019, investigators compared those prints to the one Sergeant Pickett lifted off Slaten's windowsill nearly 38 years before.
When the prints came back, there was a match?
Yes.
High-tech genetic genealogy had identified Mills as the likely killer, and an old-fashioned palm print match helped confirm his identity. But Hathcock and Hurley still needed to compare a fresh DNA sample from Mills to the decades-old DNA recovered from the crime scene.
As we had to get his DNA without his knowledge and see if we can get a match. We had to do some surveillance.
It was several weekends that we were following him around trying to get discarded.
Just looking for a cup that he drank from or a tissue that he used.
Anything.
After tracking Mills with no luck, the detectives decided it was time to get their hands dirty. They covertly took Mills' trash back to the police department.
Here we are in dress clothes, just digging through trash bags. Not the most glamorous thing.
They discovered a piece of used medical adhesive tape and sent it off to the FDLE crime lab for testing. After searching Mills' trash, they dug through his life.
He's been married to the same woman, and he lived in the same place.
He was a business owner, a cleaning service.
Was a truck driver over the years. He had a family.
Married, kids.
Married, kids, grandkids.
11 days later, the stunning lab results. Joseph Mills' 2019 DNA found on the medical tape and the 1981 unknown DNA from Linda Slaten's rape kit were a spot-on match. That's when the brothers were told the monster had been found.
This guy you last knew as Coach Joe, oh my goodness. It was him.
And I had a picture of my house ever since then. I never knew it was him.
Tim's 1981 team football photo, a source of pride for years, sickens him today because standing directly behind him is the man he once trusted and admired, Coach Joe.
I've been carrying the killer's picture in my house this whole time and never had a clue.
Even after the murder, Joseph Mills continued driving Tim to and from football practice, picking him up and dropping him off at his grandparents' house.
He'd ask us how the case was going. He wouldn't ask questions about it. He just, what, is any new news or any new leads? And I was like, no, nothing, you know.
He's talking to a 12-year-old boy and trying to keep tabs on a murder investigation through the son of the murdered woman?
Yeah. Yes.
When he knows exactly who did it?
He's a cold-hearted monster, that's for sure.
December 12th, 2019. The detectives moved in, arresting Joseph Mills.
You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can be used against you in a court of law.
He was calm, cool, and collective like it was another day on the beach. Most people's reaction would be, why am I being arrested?
Why are you taking me in? You expected some of that.
Right.
Yes.
Some kind of emotion, and nothing.
It's been 38 years, and I'm sure you go to bed every night thinking about this. I have no doubt in my mind.
Detectives Hathcock and Hurley finally had Joseph Mills right where they wanted him, in the claustrophobic confines of a police interview room.
When I picked the boys up, we stayed in the vehicle. And I don't recall of going in or out of a house, period.
There's no way that is the truth. I mean, he's saying he's never been in there. We got him.
What we have tells us a different story, okay? You were in that apartment.
Ratcheting up the pressure, the detectives told Mills they had overwhelming evidence, placing him inside Linda Slaten's bedroom.
Your fingerprints matches you, the DNA matches you.
That's when Mills' story began to change.
And then how did you end up going through her window?
It was like an invitation.
An invitation from Linda Slaten, Mills claimed, for consensual sex. A flat-out lie, say the detectives.
He said it was a sex game, that she had the hanger around her neck when he came through the window, and she asked him to tighten it down.
And then did you start applying pressure?
Yes.
And when I pointed out, well, the brutality of the hanger and how deep it was into her skin, he stuck with it was a game.
You purposely killed her. We all sitting here, we know that.
At the end of the day, what happened here?
I think it's pretty evident that he targeted her.
After dropping off Tim from football practice on September 3rd, 1981, Joseph Mills returned later that night, the detectives say, breaking in through Linda Slaten's bedroom window. No one heard Mills, they believe, because no one was home. Jeff was still at his grandparents' house. Linda and Tim were at the party next door.
If you look at the crime scene and all that, the hanger obviously came from the closet. We figured that's what happened, is he was hiding in the closet.
Were you ever in the closet?
No, sir.
In the final moments of her life, the detectives believe that Linda, after saying goodnight to her sons, walked into her bedroom and closed the door, never knowing that Mills was already inside, waiting for her. There was no invitation, no consensual sex, they say. Joseph Mills raped and murdered Linda Slaten. Detective Brad Grice always suspected the killer's name was buried somewhere in the thick police case file.
Why do you feel that the investigation didn't circle back to Joseph Mills?
Well, obviously I put a lot of that on me now.
You do?
I do.
Grice blames himself for not taking a harder look at Joseph Mills, a sentiment not shared by the Slaten brothers. They feel nothing but gratitude to the detective and friend who spent 17 years chasing the elusive killer.
I could tell how hard he wanted to solve it, and I actually named my son after him. My son's named Brad, too.
Here's Brad Slaten, graduating from high school.
Jeff put a little pressure on me over the years, you know, he did. You can't retire until you solve this case, and then he names his son after me, and honestly, I just wanted to solve this case for them more than anything.
How both of you doing?
How you doing?
All right.
So did this former investigator, 94-year-old Edgar Pickett. The brothers had always wanted to meet him.
So I want to thank you for all you did for our mom back then. If we hadn't have done it, this monster would still be running free today.
Sure would. I'm sure.
It is poignant praise for Sergeant Pickett, who lifted the palm print that helped identify the monster, Joseph Mills.
That's a case I can never forget. It's up here.
Yeah.
I can't get rid of it.
During his distinguished and trailblazing 29-year career, Sergeant Pickett had seen it all. And yet it's the Linda Slaten case that haunts him to this day. He never knew police had questioned a man named Joseph Mills just one day after the killing.
You didn't know for 38 years that he was talked to immediately afterward?
No, I didn't.
Instead, Pickett says he was asked to compare prints of a number of black men who were questioned in the days after the murder, following neighbors' reports of suspicious activity.
They kept picking up a lot of blacks, and they was giving me their prints for me to look at theirs.
It not just haunts, but angers Pickett. Black men were rounded up and fingerprinted while the white football coach driving Linda's son to and from practice was never considered a suspect.
They just talked to him and let him go.
You're telling me this case could have been solved in the first days after the murder if they had just taken a print from Joseph Mills?
That's correct.
There's a lot of people who came before you, I get it. But you got this palm print in the windowsill almost immediately. Wouldn't you just get some prints from the guy? Anybody who had been near the house in the 24 hours prior to the murder?
There was no indication that he had been in the house. I mean, all the witnesses said that he dropped the kid off from practice and never got out of the truck. So the only reason why he was spoke to was because when they backtrack on the previous 24 hours, he was in that equation.
You don't feel like he slipped through the net?
No.
No.
Joseph Mills' day of reckoning would finally come 40 years later.
He's got cold black murdering eyes. It's Joseph Clinton Mills. He just sit there, not a word.
Our mom was a good person. He took that away from us.
To avoid a trial and a possible death sentence, Joseph Mills pleaded guilty to all charges, including first-degree murder, sexual battery, and burglary. At his sentencing, what Linda Slaten's family wanted most was the answer to one question.
Why? I just want to know why, Joe. Why'd you take my mama from me? I love my mama. We was happy. My blood would start boiling every time I look at him.
The brothers and Aunt Judy tried to look him in the eye.
See if there was any human being in there. See if he was alive. See if he had a soul. Never saw it.
His silence infuriated the family, and a few minutes later, so did his comments to the court.
I am a good person. I'm not that person that they're painting me out to be.
I think this case made me the angriest out of the hundreds of cases I've been involved in, because what he did with her children there, and then the things he said about her.
That she lured him in.
Even all these years later, he was willing to try to make her look bad, to denigrate the victim. And her boys have to hear that. It's just sickening.
I will sentence you to life in prison without the possibility of parole.
And just like that, Joseph Clinton Mills was gone, facing 4 life terms, and finally, a measure of justice.
Maybe not full justice in your view.
Not full justice by no means. I wanted to go to trial. I wanted to see him up on the stand and tell everybody why he did this. And he never did that.
The Slaten brothers feel some comfort knowing Joseph Mills will never leave prison alive. But there's still anger, they say, because Mills never took full responsibility for the premeditated rape and murder of their mother. He never apologized, and there were all those years of freedom.
He lived his whole life. He raised his family. You know, he had a good life. That was right after she was killed. We went back.
It's the brothers who feel they were handed the far more severe sentence, life without the possibility of growing up with their mom.
She'd still be here today. She'd only be 72, you know, and could have had her my whole life. I just wonder what life would have been like to have that.
Any part of you, when you think about all of this, at all angry with the way the police handled it, that it took this long to get Joseph Mills?
You could look at it that way. I know it's a lot of hard work behind the scenes that people don't see that goes on. You know what they do, the hours upon hours they put in. I mean, you can get mad but only so much can be done in a day.
We owe a huge debt of gratitude to those original crime scene investigators, because at the time this crime was committed, they didn't even know DNA was going to be used in criminal investigations. And so the fact they collected that and then it was stored responsibly and carefully all these years by that department is so important. If that hadn't happened, we couldn't have done our work.
Jeff and Tim say they're determined to move on as best they can, to live life well for their mom and for their families. The brothers also know they never would have survived their ordeal without each other.
Just check it out, bro.
They remain extremely close, live just a few miles apart, and share passionate hobbies like restoring cars.
You give the credit for living this life to the spirit of your mom.
Yes,
most definitely. Sure do love you, Mom. I miss you so much every day. My mom, she's looking down on us and want us to live our lives and do good, you know, and I always think she's looking down on us, and I want to make her proud.
Yes.
I want to make her proud.
Yes.
Hours. Don't miss an episode.
Ever think in your wildest dreams that someone might want to kill you?
I would have never thought that anyone would want to kill me ever in my life, ever.
My dad's a sweet guy. I mean, he's very calm. He's full of laughter. He's full of energy. He's like a life of the party.
My life was once beautiful, wonderful. I have 3 wonderful kids. I was married to a beautiful lady.
Hi guys, my name is Lulu.
My business was booming. And I'm Ramon Sosa, head coach, boxing. Welcome to Women's Boxing and Fitness.
Outside the ring, boxers, they're very loving. They want love from their fans, and they want to give it back. They're the nicest people.
I was a very, very low-key kind of guy. That's the farthest thing from my mind, that somebody wanted me dead.
I remember walking in one night as the gym was in its final hours before it closed. I remember a conversation was taking place about hitmen.
What was it about this conversation that caught your attention?
What caught my attention was whose name came up.
Did they mention Ramon?
Yes. Now my focus is just on talking to Ramon.
I said, Mundo, you're joking around, you know, what's going on?
Ramon was like, don't play with me like that. This is some serious stuff.
And then he said, I seen that look on people's eye before they want to kill somebody.
It's like a screenplay, something straight out of Hollywood. And it would fit right in with every other horror flick that we've seen in the past.
Except this is real.
It is real.
We're taking you inside the twists and turns of a complex sting operation. And here's what makes it unique. The target of the murder-for-hire plot becomes an undercover operative to catch the person who wants him dead. So, Lieutenant, where are we heading?
We are heading to what we refer to as the dig site.
This is the actual grave where I was supposed to be dead. And they had me lay down with my hands behind my back, my head turned. There was a photographer. All I could hear was just the clicking of the camera.
That was somebody's choice. They told someone, this is what I want, this is how I want you to do it, and this is where I want you to put him. It's horrifying.
I saw myself in the grave, dead. Literally, I was supposed to be dead. I'm the only person alive that has ever walked out of his own grave.
To this day, Ramon Sosa finds it surreal that he was the target in a murder-for-hire plot.
I would have never believed it. I would have thought it was just something that you only see in movies or on TV. I would have never thought that it would be happening to me.
He appeared to have the perfect life. From rubbing shoulders with celebrities like Hugh Hefner to owning a successful boxing gym in Houston. And he had found the love of his life, Lulu.
Life was very sweet.
Beth Blair is a friend of the Sosas.
I saw two fun, outgoing, loved to party, loved to get together with people and have barbecues, and the more people, the merrier.
Ramon's zest for life started early. He was born with a fighting spirit. Originally from Carolina, Puerto Rico, Ramon grew up boxing with his father.
I fell in love with the sport of boxing. I saw how the training, and there was a few world champions that trained there, and I just loved it from the time I was little.
After training for more than 10 years, Ramon took a shot at the pro boxing circuit.
They used to call me the Puerto Rican Express. When I turned 17, I turned pro.
So did you ever knock anybody out in the ring?
Oh yeah, there was a lot of knockouts.
Eventually, the Puerto Rican Express ran out of steam. Ramon hung up his boxing gloves and decided to pursue the American dream.
I went back to school. Got my education and I still kept training. You know, always wanted to be involved with boxing in some kind of way.
Ramon got married young and had 3 children with his first wife. He eventually settled down in Houston, Texas, where he opened a boxing gym of his own where he could continue to teach his passion.
I think Ramon is a nice, humble guy, friendly, family-oriented.
Raul Marquez is an Olympic boxer and Showtime commentator. He is also Ramon's longtime sparring buddy.
Anybody that goes in the ring, it's got to be tough. It's got to be mentally tough. You know, I think he's physically and mentally tough, but like I always say, he wasn't tough enough to beat me, you know, beat my butt, you know.
So who is the better fighter, you or Ramon?
Records speak for themselves. Just look it up. Look it up.
Ramon's first marriage ended in 2000. By 2007, Ramon, then 40, was ready to get back in the ring. But this time, he was looking for a different kind of knockout.
And a friend of mine said, hey man, there's a place up there where they play live music, and I heard there's a lot of beautiful ladies out there, Latina ladies.
Ramon decided to go and see this place for himself. And as soon as he arrived, someone special caught his eye.
The place was packed. And I noticed her.
Are you thinking, man, I'm fighting out of my weight class here?
Yeah. She was very, very attractive. You know, she looked very nice. And she danced very, very well. So I just kept my eye on her.
The woman he noticed was Lulu Durantes.
Next thing I know, she walks by me and she steps on my toe.
Now, do you think she might have stepped on your foot on purpose?
Oh, she sure did. She even admitted later on.
Ramon and Lulu had an instant connection.
And that was it. I mean, as soon as we started dancing, we didn't get off the dance floor for the whole night.
Ramon still remembers the very first song they danced to, a popular Latin tune that the salsa band played that night. It would become their song.
Que tú me tienes temblando de noche y de día. Tú me hiciste brujería.
Brujería is a song by El Gran Como de Puerto Rico.
And it means what?
Witchcraft.
Witchcraft. And forgive the pun, but you were under her spell, right?
Basically, yes, I was under her spell.
Spellbound, after dancing the night away, Ramon went home with Lulu, and the rest was history.
She doted on him. She was great.
Beth had a ringside seat to their relationship.
She'd bring him coffee and get up every morning with him and make his breakfast. And I just thought it was really neat, their relationship. You know, they got along really well.
They looked like a very, very happy couple. They would compliment each other. They were into each other.
After less than a year of dating, Ramon dropped to one knee.
I proposed to her, it was around Christmas time. I remember proposing to her, she started crying. She cried and cried and cried, you know. And she was happy, you know, but she couldn't wait to get married.
Lulu Durantes became Lulu Sosa on March 15th, 2009.
She treated me well. She treated me like a king.
Lulu, originally from Mexico, came to the United States with her son and daughter.
What brought her to Houston?
You know, to have a new life, a better life for her children, to, you know, to start again, because she was divorced in Mexico and then she come here.
Natalia Flores is a hairstylist and one of Lulu's closest friends. She met Lulu back in 2007.
She was a nice friend, a good mom, a good worker, a hard worker.
Lulu was often generous with her friends.
If I would say I love that ring, she'd take it off and give it to me. I'd always be careful to say I don't like that because she'd end up giving it to me.
In 2010, Ramon opened a second gym. This time, Lulu was by his side. She kept the books and became a personal trainer.
We offer boxing, kickboxing, and fitness training.
Come check us out.
How big an operation was it?
The gym was about 5,000 square feet, and we averaged about 200 some members a month. Everything was great.
Little did Ramon know he would soon be in the fight of his life.
What was it like growing up Sosa?
Oh my gosh, it was like being a superstar almost. Because everyone knows my dad. Everyone knows who my dad is.
For Ramon's daughter Mia, a former model and beauty pageant contestant, and her two brothers, growing up around a local boxing celebrity had its perks.
It was just fun. Our dad was a jokester, so every time we were around, it was tons of laughs and smiles and all things like that.
Lots of blended families experience growing pains. But Mia says life after Lulu arrived
Hi, my name is Ramon Sosa.
I am Lulu Sosa.
was not as harmonious as those gym ads made it seem.
She didn't want anything to do with us. We were like nothing to her.
Mia found Lulu's coldness not just mean, but ominous.
It wasn't like she was trying to become a stepmom. She knew that at some point we weren't really gonna be in her picture.
What's more, the spell Lulu seemed to cast over Ramon started to eat away at his relationship with his own children.
She didn't like him spending money on his kids and seeing up.
We're not hanging out as much. And I know we're not doing it because he's got someone else that he's paying his attention to. And it's like, why? I'm your daughter. Where are you going?
Ramon says there was so much animosity between Lulu and his children, they weren't there for a major event in his life.
My kids didn't go to my wedding. That's one thing that's hurt me.
That day that we found out that he had got married, it was heartbreaking. Heartbreaking.
Ramon and his new bride focused on growing their gym into a powerhouse.
For world-class training and fitness.
How much money were you guys making a month or a year?
There was probably about over $18,000, $20,000 a month.
$18,000, $20,000 a month in profit?
Yeah.
But after 6 years of marriage, the Sosa spell began to break. Lulu started confiding in her friends.
She told me that he doesn't want to work too much and he stays more at home and she's working hard and hard and hard.
And accusations of Ramon's laziness were just the beginning.
And she said on an occasion or two that he was physical with her, or that he had come in drinking and was physical with her.
What did she mean by physical?
Like grabbing her or pushing her.
Because he's a strong guy, he came and forced to do things that she doesn't want in that moment.
Like sex?
Uh-huh.
Did she ever tell you that Ramon would force himself upon her and force her to have sex with him when she did not want to?
Yes, she did. She had said that on occasion.
Lulu claims that you have raped her.
Yeah, she's tried everything to ruin my life. From rape, being abusive, to being a drunk, and all these claims, not one of them, not one, have I been charged for. And I tell you, sir, that these hands have never hit a woman in their lives. These have always been for fighting in the ring, and not even in the streets. Not even in the streets. For her to say something like that, that was really hurtful.
Around the same time that Lulu was complaining to her girlfriends, Ramon says another problem suspiciously appeared: missing money.
After we started having problems at home with the marriage, there was issues with the gym. I'm working people out a lot more, and I see new faces all the time. But when I see the bottom line here, it's not adding up.
Are you worried that she's skimming money?
I was worried, and I was wondering what she was doing with the money.
Ramon soon learned where some of that money may have gone. In March 2015, Lulu hired divorce attorney Julio Joglar.
Lulu was in fear for her safety.
Joglar says he was shocked by what Lulu brought with her to his office.
She was able to take pictures of scratches that he left on her arms, legs, shoulders.
He shared the photos with 48 hours.
According to Lulu, this was caused by Ramon at one time when he wanted to force himself to her. And there was an altercation, and Ramon grabbed her and
Can I see it?
scratched her. Yeah. That is evidence that he was using force to push her legs out.
There's scratches on her upper arm, and she claims there's a bruise on her leg that you inflicted on her.
Those are all fabricated. I can tell you those are all fabricated.
This is...
But there was one photo that even Ramon says was not made up.
As you can see in this picture, Ramon punched that door, and that can give you an idea of the strength of this man.
That admit to that punch. She was accusing me of stuff, and that's one thing I did. I took my frustrations out. But as far as putting a hand on her, never, ever.
Despite allegations of physical abuse, Ramon and Lulu remained in the same house, even after she filed for divorce. They lived on different floors.
And was Lulu afraid of Ramon, afraid that he may seriously hurt her?
Yes, she was afraid of that.
And it was at that time, in June 2015, that this man, who asked we not show his face, was working out at the gym. He said to call him Mundo.
Ramon Sosa, he's a friend. He's a very good mentor to me.
Mundo had grown up on the tough streets of East Houston.
And he had a very, very rough background. Gangs and drugs and fighting in the streets. Then he wanted a new life, and he became like a son to me.
Mundo says he was friends with Lulu as well. She was there, talking to her 16-year-old daughter when he overheard them.
A conversation was taking place about a customer that was there that supposedly was claiming to be a big shot, that he had connections of a hitman or just people that could inflict harm. What caught my attention was towards the end of the conversation, whose name came up.
Did they mention Ramon?
Yes.
Stunned, Mundo said nothing. He came back here the next day and confronted Lulu, who told him that Ramon was physically abusing her. Then, she said something else.
She was like, I'm tired. You know, I'm tired of him. It's already too much. You know, I wish he'll disappear. I wish something, you know. And I'm like, disappear? What do you mean disappear? Like what? Disappear. And I did the pistol sign.
Mundo was certain that Lulu had murder on her mind and that his friend Ramon was in danger.
And what was it about the way she was talking to you that made you think this was something more than just idle words?
Her eyes. Just her eyes. I've seen that look before. Just people that are serious about what they're saying.
Knowing Lulu was dead serious, Mundo had to think fast. He came up with a plan to stop her. Mundo offered to get involved and hire the hitman himself.
I gave Lulu the impression that I was gonna reach out to a hitman, that I have the guys already ready.
Mundo convinced Lulu he believed her claims of abuse and would help her. But it was actually all a ploy to protect his friend Ramon, who he called as soon as he left the gym.
And he tells me, Lulu wants to kill you.
As shocking as the news was, Ramon says he instantly knew why.
If I died after the divorce was finalized, she was not going to get the money that I have for my retirement.
The value of the gym, the value of the home.
She had everything already figured out.
Ramon immediately contacted police, but was told nothing could be done based only on conversations with an angry wife, as threatening as they sounded.
The sheriff's department needed more. They needed more evidence.
So the two old boxing buddies came up with a plan. They would launch their own sting operation.
The tape recorder I'm gonna use.
Using his street smarts, Mundo would pretend to hire a hitman. He'd send texts to this fictitious killer with details about the hit. Details he'd share with Lulu.
She needs to see that I'm going back and forth with somebody.
Ramon and Mundo bought 2 disposable cell phones. Little did Lulu know that the target, her own husband, was holding that second phone.
And the phone he's gonna use to play his own hitman.
Play his own hitman?
Yes, sir.
I started stressing because, you know, here we are, me and Mundo, doing this amateur investigation or undercover investigation. I don't know what I'm doing.
But Mundo did. He started recording his daily conversations with Lulu.
Nah, pues nomás ellos, bueno, con lo que usted ofreció, pues de perdido saben que todavía está en serio que quiere que lo maten, so, todo está bien.
Sí. No, sí, definitivo. O sea, de que se lo echen, que se lo echen. O sea, vale madre eso, ¿no? Y de que les voy a pagar.
As the days passed, both men worried Lulu might have another hitman waiting in the wings.
My thing was, what if her patience runs out? You know, Ramon ends up dead. Or what if her patience runs out and I end up dead?
Ramon told no one about what he and Mundo were up to. And living in fear over what Lulu might be up to took its toll. He started carrying a gun.
I'd be at a stoplight and you know, I would put the gun in between my legs, you know, looking left and right the whole time at a light.
Ramon could not even escape his fear at night.
And you're in bed, where's the gun?
I used to underneath my pillow, loaded.
So Mundo kept the pretend negotiations on track.
We used that phone.
Acting as the middleman between the fake hitman and Lulu.
She's like, well, tell him I'm offering the white truck. Tell him I'm offering him jewelry. Tell him I'm offering him, you know, this much money.
All this time, Ramon and Lulu were still living under the same roof. On June 9, 2015, before Mundo overheard Lulu's threat, police had been called to the Sosa house. Lulu's defense attorney says there was an argument between Lulu's son and Ramon over a truck, which Lulu's son recorded on his cell phone.
Whose vehicle is this? This is my vehicle. I have the legal documents on the right, which I need today. Please don't take my vehicle.
Ramon went to take the vehicle away from Lulu's son, and when Lulu's son basically told him, no, you're not going to take my vehicle.
Please step out of my car.
Ramon punched him on his face.
Ramon, please step out of my car.
Ramon was issued a citation for assault, but he says his hand only made contact with the phone.
I'm an ex-professional fighter. If I would have hit that kid, believe me, he would not be standing up right now.
Ramon, please step out of my car.
I didn't put my hand on that kid.
On June 30th, Ramon and Lulu faced off in court. Lulu wanted a restraining order against him.
Her attorney wrote up the orders that I was abusive, that I hit her son, that they fear for their lives, you know, living with me, staying in my house.
Ramon was ordered to move out of their home and stay away from the Woodlands gym. But he also got an order restraining Lulu from the first gym he owned, the one he'd opened before meeting her. Ramon says he kept his eye on the bigger prize, exposing Lulu's plot against him.
You know, she thought she had me on the ropes, about to knock me out. In boxing, that's called an 8 count. I took an 8 count. I got kicked out of my own house.
But the boxer was about to make a comeback. 10 days after launching their sting, Ramon, posing as Paco, the fake hitman, texts Mundo. He's gotten a 9mm gun costing $200.
When Mundo received the down payment for the gun to have me killed from Lulu, that's when I said, you know what, I think we have enough. Let's take this to the police now.
I got a call on a Sunday.
Lieutenant Mike Atkins works for the Precinct 3 Constable's Office in Montgomery County, Texas.
We had an individual claiming that there was a murder for hire against him.
How unusual was that?
It's extremely unusual. It's the first one of my career.
Impressed with the amateur sting, the professionals were now ready to take over. But they needed a streetwise rookie in their corner. Mundo.
I was afraid, sir, that they might get that person to actually do the job.
They might go with. It was important that we not change the investigation. We not change or move Mundo out of the situation because that might bring alarms.
Mundo kept stringing Lulu along, assuring her he was trying to get things done as soon as possible. Finally, he let her know everything is a go for a meeting on July 20th with the hitman, who was really an undercover agent.
He looked like he could be a bad guy in a movie. I said, hey, this is the man that's supposed to kill you.
Lulu agreed to a night meeting in this parking lot not far from the gym. She brought several watches and some jewelry as a down payment. Lulu then went to an ATM machine and withdrew $500, which she brought back here to seal the deal.
When someone in a murder for hire case actually pays some money, have they crossed a threshold?
They have. It shows the level of intent. It shows the fact that they are serious, and it's come to a point where you can't turn back.
Police had enough to arrest Lulu right there and then, but they had concerns, namely Lulu's claims of Ramon's abuse.
Lulu has never had any problems with the law. She's a beautiful lady, mother. We don't want to go to a jury trial and have one of the jurors feel sorry for her.
And so police told Ramon what they needed to do next.
We're planning to take a picture of you dead.
For Ramon, the police sting to bring down Lulu seemed to be taking a cue from Witchcraft, the first song they ever danced to. One of the lyrics, "You want to send me to my cold tomb."
Yeah, we're gonna take a picture of you dead, like in a grave, and we're gonna show it to her to show proof that the hitman did the job.
He was kind of dumbstruck, but then as it was explained to him, he was well on board.
In order to get Ramon camera ready,
It is a bullet wound.
police first had to consult some experts.
Being a bunch of middle-aged men, we're not exactly versed on applying makeup. So naturally, we went to YouTube and learned how to apply makeup from teenage girls.
But they also had some deadly examples to follow.
Luckily, we had no shortage of crime scene photos to use as references.
The assistant DA was there, and he brought out some pictures of actual dead people. People with bullet holes to the head. They picked up the one that they thought that was going to be the best one. And I looked.
And they showed you that picture?
Yeah, I was horrified.
Next, they had to find Ramon a grave.
We're heading to what we refer to as the dig site. Luckily for us, the county owned a right-of-way that would give us the privacy we needed.
What was going through your mind?
Well, I really didn't know what it was going to look like. I was at this point already. I already had the makeup. They already started with the bullet hole.
The final touch, fake blood.
And they told me once we got to the site, they were going to put more blood on me.
This is it. Ramon's final resting place.
So, where were you lying in this grave?
My head was there in that corner right there, and I was
right over there.
Yeah, it looked like I had my hands tied behind my back. They even threw dirt on my head. It looked like a movie scene, honestly.
Was it emotional for you to be in here?
Yeah, it was very emotional. It was hot. It was scary. It was just a feeling of thoughts of, I can't believe this, what I'm doing. I cannot believe what I'm doing. This is what Lulu wanted, right here. This is what she wanted.
Now it's time to show Lulu that this is done and it's time to get paid.
So a second meeting was arranged between Lulu and the hitman in this same parking lot. But this time, it was all caught on camera.
Pues, de guapa.
It's July 22nd, 2015.
Ya estuvo, todo bien. Sí. Ya nos agarramos ahora en la mañana.
¿En dónde fue acá?
Saliendo de los apartamentos.
¿De los apartamentos?
Yendo para el trabajo.
Lulu then pays him.
Tengo 1,000.
Lulu is shown the photo of Ramon dead in a grave.
¿Peleó?
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 She starts laughing.
No shock at all.
No shock.
What does that tell you about Lulu?
She's a pretty cold character.
The undercover detective and Lulu discuss the remaining payment, all told $3,000 in cash, watches, and jewelry, and Ramon's white pickup. Then Lulu is given more details of her husband's final moments.
Preguntaba que qué onda, qué pedo, que no lo matáramos, que no. ¿Por qué le hacíamos esto?
Por pegarme.
Lulu maintains she was the victim here.
¿Te golpeaba?
Sí. Desgraciado.
The reality of Ramon's death continues to sink in, and Lulu's mood appears to lift.
No se levanta ya.
She was happy. She even made a comment to the hitman. She asked him if he was dead, if I was not going to get up.
Like a joke.
Yeah, she wanted to make sure that I was dead. She made gestures with her hand like, racing the roof.
Little did Lulu know that her roof was about to come crashing down. The next morning, police come to the gym, and it's not for a workout.
We want to come in and say, hey, we're inquiring about your husband that's been missing, and we want to get her reaction.
Wearing body cameras.
Hey, Ms. Sosa, ¿habla inglés? Okay, Detective Martinez with the constable's office.
Police make it seem like they're stopping in to do a wellness check on Ramon.
Is there somewhere we can talk in private? Sure. Apparently, Mr. Sosa hasn't been to work today.
Lulu claims she has no idea where Ramon might be.
I haven't seen him. I'm going to talk to him. We're going through the board.
When's the last time you saw Mr. Sosa?
Park Place. We saw him on Wednesday 15th, the last day.
That's the last time you saw him?
That's the last time I saw him, my mom, and my daughter.
Lulu seems pretty relaxed.
She does. She knows that sooner or later the police are going to come, either to say he's missing or they found his body.
Remember, the night before she had seen his picture, she was all happy. She was all giggles and happy that to see me dead. And now she was acting concerned in front of the cops.
So he hasn't contacted you in the last 24 hours?
No. She hung up.
Police let Lulu's performance go on a few minutes longer, then lower the boom.
Okay, Ms. Sosa, stand up, please. You're under arrest. Okay, you're under arrest.
Why?
Back at the constable's office, Lulu is already taking issue with how she was arrested.
Los derechos me los habían leído antes de que me expulsaran.
She's saying that we're supposed to read her right before we put handcuffs on her.
Okay, you can tell that's incorrect if you like.
And eso no es correcto.
Prior to her interview, Lulu is read her rights and refuses to speak without a lawyer. Lulu is charged with solicitation of capital murder. It's an injustice, says her divorce lawyer, Julio Joglar.
I think that Ramon Sosa is someone that was very violent to his wife. And I think that the constant hammering, the constant violence, the constant behavior towards his wife made his wife fear him. I believe that that's what forced her at the end to make a decision that otherwise she would have never made.
The question now, will a jury believe Lulu's claims of abuse?
Here lies Ramon Sosa, right?
Yes, sir. This is like a scene from a movie where they kill these guys and just, and just dig up a hole anywhere and put them away. Very scary.
For 3 days, Ramon had to play the part of a dead man.
And nobody knew where I was. Even my family, everybody was looking for me. I was very, very upset. Rage and sadness, all the emotions came through me.
Okay, Miss Sosa, stand up, please. You're under arrest. Okay, you're under arrest.
Why?
Okay.
Following Lulu's arrest on July 23, 2015, Ramon faced the unimaginable task of telling his children that their stepmother had tried to kill him.
I had just got off of a shift from working at a comedy club, and it was late. You know, I didn't expect my brother to be sitting on my bed. You can just feel something was wrong.
Mia's brother handed her the phone. Her father was on the line.
And he says, very low, Mia, I'm okay. And I said, what are you talking about? And he says, I'm okay, I'm somewhere safe, but Lulu tried to have someone kill me.
Gracias.
Okay.
And at this point, I mean, you don't hear anything. I didn't know what to do with myself except cry. I remember sliding on the back of the wall down to the ground and huddled into my knees, crying my eyes out.
Now, Ramon had a new fight on his hands, defending his reputation.
That was what hurt me so much. She had so many people believe all this stuff, that I had put my hands on her, that I was an alcoholic, that I hit her son. That's how psycho this person was.
Still, would Lulu use these allegations as part of her own defense?
Give me a sense, how strong now is your case against Lulu Sosa?
We think it was a very strong case. We had our video, we had a down payment, we had a confirmation to her that the murder had taken place.
So you've got her.
We got her.
As Lulu awaited trial, that assault charge against Ramon
Please step out of my car.
was dismissed. And Lulu agreed to a divorce settlement that handed Ramon the gym and the house.
She gave it all up.
After 15 months in jail, awaiting trial on the murder-for-hire charges, Lulu gave up the fight. In October 2016, as Ramon looked on, she pleaded guilty to a reduced charge of second-degree solicitation of murder, avoiding trial and a possible life sentence.
She came here with an American dream, and she got her American dream quick. And to lose everything the way she did, it's sad.
Lulu was given 20 years in prison.
Is 20 years enough?
I don't think so, but I'm happy that it's over with. I'll take it.
I was just shocked that trying to hire somebody to kill her husband, that's really all she got was 20 years.
Personally, because that's my father, I want you away forever. I don't want you to come out.
Not everyone agrees.
Was that justice, in your opinion?
My opinion, no.
Lulu's divorce attorney, Julio Joglar.
Because?
Because nobody got to hear her side. Many times I saw her crying. I felt her desperation.
Ramon says the ordeal has left scars.
Are you haunted by this?
I'll never be the same person ever again. I call my kids as much as possible. Might be the last day I say that I love them.
Ramon's near-death experience has changed him.
They love our family.
Mia is now back in Texas, having patched up their relationship after Lulu drove them apart.
It's been a really good outcome for me and for him. You're gonna get knocked out sometimes. You're gonna get up, take the loss, and you're gonna try harder and get a win.
Now, Ramon is a sought-after speaker, telling his incredible story of survival. He shared that journey to an appreciative audience in London.
Thank you, London. I'm alive.
The man who Lulu thought would help kill her husband is now an author. Mundo has written a book about his experience.
If Lulu is watching this broadcast, is there anything you would want to say to her?
Redeem yourself. You don't have to be what everybody tells you you are, you know. Everybody's telling me I was something else. Prove everybody wrong, so you could do the same.
Today, Ramon wears a precious reminder of how his time on Earth almost ran out.
Tell me about the watch that's on your left wrist there.
She told Mundo that when they kill me, to make sure to take my watch. That's what I wear all the time now.
I think she ended up picking the wrong man to victimize, don't you?
Yeah. It's the last minute of the last round. She had me on the ropes, and she had no idea that the whole time I had her plan too.